Yes, folks, it's back to what was once the hotbed of the sweet science. The lights of Madison Square Garden were doused for boxing not long ago, but tonight, a renaissance, a throwback to when this was the mecca.
And hello, everybody. I'm Barry Tompkins once more with my partner Al Bernstein. And now we have to talk first about who is not here, because earlier in the week that made bigger news than who is here.
Well, they threw this party for Oscar De La Hoya, and he didn't show up. He decided to pull out of this fight for a variety of possible reasons. We're going to get into a little later during Ringside Report, but one is that he had an injury. The other is that he simply had management problems, wanted to get rid of his current management, and so did not want to fight here. Whatever the case, Oscar De La Hoya is not here, and at least his short-term future is up in the air.
All right, which brings us to who is here, and we will talk more about the De La Hoya business a little bit later. But who is here is a fellow by the name of Eddie Croft, and he's got a very, very tough fight on his hands tonight.
He does indeed. He's a very, very talented young fighter. He's got a lot of boxing skills, and he went all the way across the country to fight here. This is his first fight in New York. What impact does it make?
You know, I didn't really, it didn't faze me one way or another. I'm really excited that I'm getting a good opportunity here. You know, at the same time, you know, I hope the best for Oscar. I hope he, you know, gets things straightened away so he can come back to fighting. He shed some extra light on everybody and on all the fighters, so he's good in that respect. But you know, I'm glad that I'm going to get a little extra attention here, and you know, hopefully I'll show my best for everybody that's going to be watching.
Well, let's talk about the other half of this matchup. Fellow by the name of Hector Acero Sanchez. He too has only one loss, and he's gotten 20 people out of there along the way, so he can do the job.
He does have some power, possibly a little edge in power for him. He was once ranked 6th in the world. This fight has a lot of importance for him, and he explained it to us.
Bueno, yo me encuentro en el punto ahora
This is the
mismo de
first
que
step in my
esta es
career,
la
and I
pelea
want the
que
public to
me
see
hace
where I
pelear con
am.
los boxeadores
And this
categoría
fight's going to catapult me
de
into
la
fighting
categoría de
the
Jesus
greats
Salud,
Jesus Salud and Puerto Rican
campeón,
Wilfredo Vasquez. You're going to see what kind of a fighter I am.
pelea.
So it is a special night just for the return of boxing here in the Garden, but special for another reason as well. A man being honored tonight for 21 years as the matchmaker here at Madison Square Garden, Teddy Brenner. For the festivities, here's Michael Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we get started tonight, it's a privilege for us to honor one of the greatest names ever associated with the history of the sport. Here to tell you about it is the chairman of Top Rank Incorporated, Mr. Bob Arum.
Thank you. Tonight, as boxing returns to the Big Apple, New York City, it is fitting that we pay tribute to the greatest matchmaker in the history of the sport of boxing, Teddy Brenner. And joining me tonight are champions whose matches Teddy arranged. The great middleweight champion, Emil Griffith. The great middleweight and light heavyweight champion, Iran the Blade Barkley. The great middleweight champion, the Raging Bull, Jake LaMotta. Okay. The great lightweight champion, Carlos Ortiz. And the great heavyweight champion of the world, Smoking Joe Frazier. Teddy Brenner put fights on in Madison Square Garden when Friday night, the Friday night fights, Madison Square Garden was the place to be. And here to make a presentation to Teddy on behalf of Madison Square Garden, Chris Weiler.
Thanks, Bob. The sport of boxing has a great tradition here at Madison Square Garden. No name is more synonymous with boxing at the Garden than Teddy Brenner, the greatest matchmaker in the history of the building. To honor all the fans, the boxers, and all the people that worked with Teddy through the years, we put a little crystal Tiffany gift together in honor of Teddy. Congratulations and thank you very much.
During those years, there was one man who chronicled with his art what was happening in boxing, and particularly boxing in Madison Square Garden. I'd like to call on Teddy's good friend, the great painter, the great artist, the man who brought boxing to the world on the canvas, Leroy Neiman.
I'm going to present a painting here to It's one of the privileges of an artist to present a work of his to a dear friend, and I'm presenting this painting to Teddy Brenner.
One champion couldn't be with us today, but he asked me to read his remarks. The first time I fought in Madison Square Garden, Teddy Brenner matched me against Sonny Banks. Banks knocked me down in the first round, and it took me 4 rounds to whoop him. The next time I fought in Madison Square Garden, Teddy Brenner matched me against Doug Jones. Jones made me look awful bad and embarrassed me something awful. Teddy Brenner got me knocked down by Joe Frazier. Now I'm thinking about making another comeback. Just think, Muhammad Ali, 4-time heavyweight champion of the world. But I'm not using Teddy Brenner for a matchmaker. I'm too old for Teddy's fights. Love, Muhammad Ali. And finally, on behalf of everyone at Top Rank, particularly his proteges, the 2 top-ranked matchmakers, Bruce Trampler and Ron Katz, we would also like to present Teddy with this award which says, Teddy Brenner, the greatest matchmaker of all times, December 9, 1993. God bless you.
Well, a very nice moment to a very good man, Teddy Brenner, the matchmaker. Did the Friday night fights. You know, it's an interesting story. Just last night I was talking to some friends of mine who happened to work for CBS, and they were telling me that for all the years that Ed Murrow was doing See It Now on CBS, and of course everybody has talked about what a wonderful program that was. The Friday night fights, which were on opposite it, got better ratings. So a collection of some of the greats from the sport of boxing here to honor the man who was for 21 years the matchmaker at Madison Square Garden as boxing comes back to New York.
John, how you doing? You know AutoZone customers are pretty...
134 pounds. He's from the Bronx right here in New York. His professional record, 28 victories, 21 KOs, only 6 defeats. Ladies and gentlemen, Jose Vidal. And his opponent across the ring fighting out of the blue corner, wearing the maroon trunks with white trim, also weighing in at an even 134 pounds. From our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., he brings a professional record of 12 victories with 6 KOs, 5 defeats and 4 draws. Ladies and gentlemen, Lyndon Walker.
All right, let's talk about the rules in the state of New York, Al.
We don't get here very often. We go upstate from time to time. A 3 knockdown rule in effect. The standing 8 count is also in effect. The referee or doctor can stop the fight. Winner gets 10, loser 9 or less. The referee doesn't figure in the scoring, cannot be saved by the bell in any round here.
Now let's talk about the other thing in the state of New York, and we talked with Commissioner Randy Gordon about this today, and that is that he encourages rounds that are not all 10-9. You're going to see some 10-8 rounds. You're even likely to see some 10-7 rounds, and it isn't totally out of the question that you could see a 10-6 round. So as a result of that, I think you're also likely to see some widely diverse scoring.
Yeah, of course we've seen that a little bit when we've been in the state of New York. This, however, is the very first time Top Rank Boxing on ESPN has come to New York City, ever.
Been up in White Plains a few times, been up in Troy, been up in Albany.
But never in the Big Apple.
Lyndon Paul Walker, named for LBJ, incidentally.
I thought that was intriguing when you told us that today.
Excellent amateur. You followed him a little bit in his amateur career.
We had him here on ESPN on the Olympic Festival a couple of years. He fought in the Olympic Festival in '85 and fought Kelsey Banks during one of those years. He switches a lot. You may see him go to lefty also during the course of this fight.
Very confident coming into this fight. You know, we've talked about this on numerous occasions, how sometimes when we speak with the fighters in the morning, you can really get a pretty good idea of who's there to cash a paycheck and who's there to really put on a performance and give it the best shot to win. And Lyndon Paul Walker, despite a record that does not knock your socks off, clearly there to win.
Yeah, he really is. And, you know, that record, which is one that I think a lot of people coming off his amateur career would have thought would be better to this point. He's had a lot of close losses. The last 2 fights he lost to Reggie Green and Paul Burke. Paul Burke, the British Commonwealth champion, lost in decisions. He's had 4 draws, which is astonishing. So a lot of close fights. And of course, Vidal had to readjust his thinking when Oscar De La Hoya decided not to be here. Nice counterpunch by Walker.
Good right hand, but he took a left hand. And there's a good right hand from Vidal. Vidal with the quick hands.
Vidal at 30 really needs badly to make this work for him tonight. Get an impressive win so he can jump back into the rankings and hopefully put himself back into a title contention.
It's a guy who has not made many appearances in the continental United States. In fact, this is only his 3rd. He's been fighting in Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic some. Has had 1 fight in Chicago and another in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and this one in New York. Has only 3 stateside appearances. End of round 1. We'll be back. Very good hand speed, doing a lot more than did Walker. There's a quick right hand again. Look at the numbers in round 1. Interestingly enough, Walker had the edge, and I got to tell you, that really surprised me.
I am too. I really thought that Vidal had done better, but Walker was landing a lot of counter punches in there, so and that's why when you're not counting them, it's hard to tell. When you have people accurately counting them, you can get those statistics.
And yet I would be very surprised if any of the judges gave that round to Walker.
Yeah, really, they're probably not. And I have to confess I gave the round to Vidal.
Which makes another case for Walker's record, really, and how he says, you know, most of the fights he's been there.
It's a very, very good point. I mean, that round would indicate that. Walker now he hasn't switched yet, but he told us today, and we remember seeing him in his early days as a pro and as an amateur. He will try and switch to lefty from time to time to confuse his opponent. He just found out about this Sunday night, sitting at home. He said reviewing some fight film, so he was doing his homework on top of everything else. He had a fight scheduled for December 18th, did Walker, and then got the call and said, sure, I'll fight. Oh, my. Without getting there with the right hand against Walker, he can land that punch almost, it seems, whenever he wants. Walker standing very straight, not bending, tucking his chin.
And pawing with his right hand.
Again, the right hand gets there for Vidal. He has really found a home for that punch.
Vidal really was prepared for Oscar De La Hoya. He really believed that he could beat De La Hoya. In fact, his people came into the ring holding a sign saying De La Hoya chicken, which I suppose is a fast food place.
Or will be at some point, yes, with Oscar De La Hoya. Assuming he gets all his other difficulties straightened away, we'll be talking about later. Kind of a magical night because of the tribute to Teddy Brenner. A lot of greats here for boxing, as you saw at the top of the show, and that made it kind of special.
Yeah, and an excellent crowd here at the Paramount tonight to bring boxing back to the city of New York. End of 2. Rather a big fight. Vidal with the red and white stripe. Walker in the, what color would you call those?
Burgundy.
Burgundy, I like that.
I think it's close to burgundy. Vidal now in round 2 lands a lot of punches and gets himself a pretty huge edge for 2 rounds. It's one of my favorite colors, burgundy. Throw move that in just so you know. I approve of fighters wearing that trunk color. Here is my scoring. Vidal winning 20-18. The first round pretty close, as we noted.
A little combination from Walker as he gets in close.
Lyndon Walker is not a bad combination puncher. He's not a real hard puncher. You see he slaps with a lot of his punches. Always has, even in the amateur days. There's a left
Got
hand.
him off balance. Didn't hurt him, but it did knock him off balance.
In my opinion, this would be an excellent time for Walker to switch to lefty, which he's capable of doing. It would really, I think, help give a different look to Vidal and maybe help him land some more shots. Although he's off to a pretty good start here in round 3.
He is. A little puffiness under the right eye and a cut, I think, over the left eye of Vidal. He was blinking a moment ago.
Stop holding now. Break!
I can tell how serious that cut is. Nice combination from Vidal.
He threw the jab there and came right with the right hand.
Seemingly getting a little bit of a sense of urgency here.
Yeah, you can feel it. He's really trading a lot more with Walker, which is helping him, but could hurt him as well. And there you see Walker landing the uppercut.
Walker not a bad counterpuncher. Another right hand from Walker backs Vidal up.
Over what is kind of a slow left jab by Vidal. So since that cut emerged, things have changed a bit.
Cut may be bothering him. There's no blood that we can see, but it could be getting into the eye.
And in this round, Walker has turned things around because he's the one landing the right hands over the jab of Vidal, which Vidal was doing in the first couple of rounds.
There'll be some work to be done in Vidal's corner between rounds. Also a little puffiness under the other eye of Vidal as well. End of round number 3. We're going to take you back into Vidal's corner. And again, you can't really see any blood there, but we will see. And they are working on that left eye. Looks like the cut may be more on the bridge of the nose than it is around the eye. And there it is.
That should pose no genuine problem.
It's okay. Yeah.
Little puffiness under the right eye, as you see, though.
Here is Lyndon Walker with the sharp right hand, and he is landing a lot of those right hands over the jab of Vidal. That one was more of a slip, but Walker cuffing him around. Good round for Walker, and for this man, some puffiness, as you noted, around the right eye could give Vidal some trouble.
Start round 4 scheduled for 10. Again, Vidal pressing things here. Numbers in the 3rd round decidedly for Walker, as you can see.
Wow, that was a big round for him. And throwing a lot of punches in that round as well. Now, the more lateral movement you give Lyndon Walker, the more trouble he has.
And Vidal started off doing that. Started going to his left extremely well.
When you stand in front of him, that's when Walker can get the job done pretty well. And when Jose has traded with him, he's had problems.
Vidal has not been the most active of fighters over the last 4 years or so. He's only had 5 fights since August of 1989.
Kind of right there by Walker after he had been nailed with a bunch of... They trade off in each round. One round, one guy lands the right wheel well, and then the next round, it's a different. It's the other guy.
Walker trying to crowd Vidal more here.
See, a moment ago there, Walker switched to lefty, and it made it work. He should stay lefty for a while. There's no question in my mind. It would help him. He's had a tough beginning of this 4th round here.
Vidal took a long look at his corner, though, for some reason or other. throwing a lot of punches in this round.
Yeah, not that accurate, but the amount he's throwing would indicate he's probably going to take this round. Unless Walker can make some real inroads here in the last minute or so. This is the jab of Vidal. When you jab Walker and keep your jab double jab, you can't land that counter right and keep him at bay. Double jab and move, and every time, and Walker is proper. Linden is not cutting off the ring as well as he must.
Go ahead.
And then talking about his hometown of Washington, D.C., I thought I had a pretty good quote. He said, where they make the laws and break the laws.
And he was only talking about Congress. He didn't get to the people there. Whoops, did I say that? Well, in round 4 here, Vidal has taken back some of the momentum that Walker built up in the 3rd round.
Now Walker just not doing much offensively, and score this one for Vidal. End of round 4, and we'll be back right after this.
The 1993 NASCAR season was one wild ride.
Next week, it's a battle for the WBO Junior Welterweight title. We'll be up in Ledyard, Connecticut to watch a couple of guys who earned their way. Zach Padilla, a success story. Not only what happened, it did happen. Ray Oliveira hopes to make that success his as he takes on Padilla for Padilla's title. It all happens next Thursday night.
Well, that's a good one next week, but this week we got a good one going. Vidal throwing combinations. 3-punch combination, 2 of which got there, and you can see by that replay that Lyndon Walker standing very straight up, not bending at the waist much, and not protecting his head.
Round number 5, that cut is not any worse than it was. In fact, if anything, it's probably a little bit better for Vidal. Usually it takes a couple of rounds of work on a cut before they can really get it stopped. Still is a little swelling under the right eye. Not yet a problem, though, for Vidal. Walker kind of went dead in the water in that last round.
Okay, he was counterpunched very well by Vidal, and he's following Vidal around the ring, not cutting off the ring too effectively. And there you see Jose giving him a lot of good movement.
On your card, 2 rounds for Vidal, and 3 rounds for Vidal, and 1 round for Walker.
Also, Lyndon Walker has not used his jab very much to work his way inside. And, of course, that may have been discouraged early when Vidal was countering it so effectively with his own right hand.
Like that, right hand, yeah.
Now, Vidal is a pretty good puncher, but not a huge knockout puncher, 23 and 38 fights. And Lyndon Walker is not a guy you would expect to get out of there. He's never been knocked out, as you call it. So when you put the 2 together, even though Vidal's landing some big shots, and maybe stunning Walker, he's not really hitting the back.
Break.
Walker doesn't give you a lot of movement with his head, or his body for that matter. And again, I think, you know, in the eyes of the judges, oftentimes that would hurt him.
And it makes the punches he gets hit with even showier because he's not rolling with the punches. You know, neither of these guys are real young. Walker at 28, Vidal at 30, so a fight like this takes on some genuine importance for him. Good overhand rights by Walker.
A couple of them, and he did open the cut up again, but the cut is in the bridge of the nose. It's not really a big problem. Long side of the nose, actually. Good right hand by Vidal.
Well, when he winds up with that punch and throws it straight, he lands it about 80% of the time.
Walker's gotten himself in trouble when he gets in close like this. Although this time, Vidal could not make him pay, and Walker ties him up as we come to the end of round 5, and we'll be back right after this.
Every day
Lyndon Walker that may have busted open that cut a little bit on the nose of Vidal.
But again, we have to emphasize that cut is not really in a place that it's going to cause a great deal of problem, I don't believe, for Vidal. Walker comes out strongly here as we start the 6th round. There were jabs in this fight. Vidal much more active with his jab than Walker.
As he should be with the style he's fighting, but you know, probably not that much better because Walker should be jabbing his way in, I think, double jabbing his way in. It's fascinating to me, Barry, how much both of these fighters have been able to land the overhand right like that one, and that really, now that opened a cut up over the left eye, but now they may be saying there's a clash of heads.
I think certainly Vidal is claiming that. Now, I don't know if Arthur Mercante Jr. is saying that or not, but that is a cut now that really could be a problem.
And that was smart on Vidal's part to even claim that. Oh, nice left by Walker, because he may have stolen the ruling, if you will, there, that it was a clash of heads, and of course if it was, and they had to go to the scorecards, you might stand a good chance to win.
It'd be interesting to see. We'll get a chance to look at that.
They are banging heads now. We have the guys in the tape room feverishly
scanning now. They scan.
Tape.
That cut is a pretty nasty cut.
Yeah. It came either by that right hand or a clash of heads when it was thrown.
Oh, with a pretty nice left hand.
Yeah, even despite the cut and the fact that Walker was able to make something good happen, Vidal is not completely out of this round. He can still get a rally, but Lyndon Walker having himself a very good round here. With the right hand from Walker, I was saying before when that happened, it's amazing how they have traded rounds with each man landing the right hand at various times.
That cut, though, is bothering Vidal. It's definitely getting in his eye, and you can see him blinking.
Well, Oscar De La Hoya may not be here to fight Vidal, but Lyndon Walker, who told us this morning, he said, I'm going to give a good show, and he's doing it. He's making this a very competitive and entertaining fight.
There have been a lot of head clashes in this round, especially.
Break.
15 seconds remaining in the round. At the end of round number 6, we're going to take you into Vidal's corner. If they had work to do the last time we took you there, they have much more work to do now, and they hustle in there, as you see. Arthur Mercante Jr. will take a good long look.
Hector Roca in that corner, he'll work on the cut.
They're not even bothering so much now. They get to the cut on the nose, but the one over the eye is the one that is much more of a concern. A lot of work to do here.
There is where the clash of heads came, and that is undoubtedly where the cut was caused. Now, if Arthur Mercante, who was right there, did indicate it, then they would have to go to the scorecards if this fight were stopped because of that cut.
That has happened to Walker once in the past.
And Walker outlanded Vidal 39-10 in power shots in round 6. Now, in the future, you've got to work with a partner that doesn't spill Coke all over your notes.
That's all right. I can take it.
Hey, look at this. We got a close fight. Vidal with a 1-point lead. And, boy, a lot of punches being thrown, even though the percentages are great. So an indication that this is an interesting and very close fight.
And I think our main event will be, too. That, of course, still to come. Eddie Croft, Hector Acero Sanchez. Card, a 2-point fight for Vidal.
Hit last round to Walker, but I thought Vidal had You know, and the rounds that Walker's winning, he's winning by a big margin, which is why he's closed the gap. And that's why sometimes with the numbers, even though the numbers are right there, a guy could still be a couple rounds ahead.
And remember what we mentioned earlier, that here in the state of New York, judges are encouraged not necessarily to make every round a 10-9 round. So there can be a 10-8 round without a knockdown.
And Lyndon Walker really picking up the pace in terms of pressure. Still walking into some counter rights, but oh, there's a nice combination. But he is putting pressure on. You know, Vidal is throwing a lot of these punches as he's backing up. So he's not getting a lot of power behind him. He may have to stand there for a little while and really try and back Walker up in this bout. And which I think he has the power to do. He showed it earlier in the bout.
A warning for hooking to Walker.
Is that hooking or high sticking?
One of the two, yeah. It's 3 minutes, I know that.
Break! Stop holding. Break!
Counter right. This is the again by Vidal. This is one of the closer rounds in this bout, Barry. It could be a pivotal round in the fight. Blood again from the eye.
And Walker working that eye pretty good.
Vidal is giving him a lot of angles though right now. He might be stealing this round because of his defensive abilities.
Double right hand from Walker. As you said, a very close round and a very pivotal round. Well, there's the face of a man who was desperately trying to keep things together here. A rather serious cut over his left eye. The doctor was in his corner between rounds taking a look at it. There was a little bit of concern. Now, you just spoke to Arthur Mercanti Jr., the referee, as we look at the numbers, and Walker with a very slight edge, but as we said, a very pivotal round. What did Arthur just say?
I yelled into the ring and asked if it was a clash of heads, and he said yes, it was. So that would mean now, if you're sitting in Vidal's corner, you almost might want to see this fight stop to go to the scorecards. Now, the scorecards could be close, but you have to think maybe your guy's ahead. I've got Vidal ahead by 1 point. Now, of course, it could be even, or Walker could be ahead on the judges' scorecards. Because that cut is really bothering him.
And it's in a very bad place.
Yeah, and if the fight were stopped, they would go to the scorecards. Again, though, and we have mentioned this a couple of times, Lyndon Walker has been involved in so many close fights, 4 draws among them. And he often does not get close decisions. Boy, he looks like he's headed toward another one here, doesn't he?
Yeah, very close so far. There was a headbutt.
By the way, we've been told that they're trying to, or may even have it scheduled, to make a rematch between Harold Brazier and Kevin Pompey. Speaking of close decisions, one of our best fights. Terrific a couple weeks ago. That was spectacular. But that I personally thought Harold Brazier won. But the judges didn't see it that way. Not that Kevin Pompey didn't fight well. He did fight well. Some good work with the left hand by Vidal. Remember the early rounds of this fight, that lead right by Vidal was really making something happen. And now he's moving so much that those punches are not having that much impact. Nice uppercut by Walker.
Good shot. He took about 5 shots to get it in, but it did get there.
And therein lies the rub. And this round is a perfect example. While Lyndon Walker has landed the showier punches, it would seem as though Vidal has done a little more work.
Right hand by Walker.
10th round, and this is another very close round. Take your pick. 2 rounds to go.
Panasonic presents a unique and
Start the 9th round as you take a look at Lyndon Paul Walker.
He is, now let's take a look at the punches first. Through round 8. Boy, oh boy, it just doesn't get much closer than that, does it?
But as you said, sometimes really the distribution of the punches.
It is, which is very important. What that shows is that it's a close fight, which is in fact true. But it could be a 2-point fight one way or the other, a 1-point fight or whatever, because of, as you said, punches in different rounds. For instance, I haven't scored a 2-point fight. Let's take me, for example, as the scorer.
Which, of course, puts the onus on Walker. If your card is right, you would have to win these last 2 just to have the fight.
Yeah. And it's not that he hasn't made it quite close, as those numbers indicate. It's just that it seems like there have been a few more rounds when Vidal ended up taking it. And the rounds that Walker has won, he has won in a dominant fashion. However, this brings us back, as you pointed out, to the New York scoring system, where if you're going to be rewarded for 10-8 rounds in the rounds where you've done better, maybe Walker does get an advantage. And maybe that's fair given this kind of fight. I don't know. Body work also by Vidal. I'll tell you what, that could go unnoticed in the course of this bout.
It's a nice 3-punch combination right there by Vidal. Double left hand of the body, came up with the right hand of the head.
He's throwing that uppercut, though, Vidal, from a little too far out, and that's why Walker was able to counter him.
You know, one other thing to point out, at the end of the last round, Arthur Mercante Jr. gave a second warning to Walker for holding. And that's the last thing in the world that Walker needs to have happen to him, is to lose another point, or lose a point on a 3rd warning.
And Vidal having himself a pretty good 9th round here. Walker's pressure, well, that's good right by Walker. He's pressuring, but Vidal is doing a lot more work. You know, one thing Lyndon Walker has not done as well that I've seen him do in the past, and that is work the body.
I'll tell you, though, that cut is getting worse, and Arthur Mercante took a very long look at it when he separated the fighters this last time.
Well, and if they would stop this bout, as we've said, they would go to the scorecard. And after this round, even though Walker's coming out toward the end, you would think Vidal might like them going to the scorecards. Well, Walker making a nice comeback here in the 9th round.
Might be stealing it.
Vidal with an excellent left hook of his own. And that punch has been dormant for the last 5 rounds with him.
Come to the end of round number 9. 3 minutes of boxing left. We're going to take you into the corner of Lyndon Paul Walker and hear what they have to say to their man.
We got to really round big, Paul. Oh, we got to really round big, Paul. We got to say it easy. They got it easy. You know what I'm saying, man? We got to get this out the Paul. They said it's easy.
I want you to go slow, okay? Get close to him.
Round, champ. We touch gloves.
Thank you. Get close to him and throw flow. You understand what I'm saying to you? Every time I do a jab, move inside and throw those combinations. I don't care what kind they are. Just more combinations, all right? Okay? Stop on your right hand, lean more to the body, and then bring it up to the head. Nice behind you. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, we got to take this round big, Paul.
Yeah, we need this. We win this one, we win the fight.
Face of a man who may have done enough to get a victory, although he's not going to know when he looks in the mirror.
And in round 9, Batman Jose Vidal had a great round. 49 landed out of 108, while Walker actually threw 8 more punches, but only landed 35.
There are those numbers. Again, that's the way this fight has been from beginning to end, and those are the cumulative totals.
So we will have 2 men that will approach 1,000 punches thrown in a 10-rounder. That's spectacular. And I don't know if the record for a 12-rounder in total thrown, I'm sure, must be Pompey Trice from some years ago. But in a 10-rounder, they're going to be coming fairly close to a record here.
or just both letting it go here?
They have been unable for several rounds to stop the bleeding at left eye. Vidal, oh, he's landing some good shots here now, countering as Walker comes in. You got to give both these guys a lot of credit. Lyndon Walker, who took the fight on only 3 days' notice, even though he was training for a fight on December 18th. And Vidal, who is weathering what is a lot of pressure from Walker. So both men have done well in this bout. Mentioned that Vidal had a knee operation some years ago. His mobility doesn't appear to be hampered at this point by counter right by Vidal. Let's go, baby.
Well, a couple of warriors here. I don't think there's any question about it.
The mouthpiece, I think, of Vidal sent out by a good overhand right by Lyndon Walker.
Break! Come on, let's go. Time. What are you doing, score? Come on, let's go. Hurry up.
In.
Come on. Come on, Walk it up.
Now, that was Walker's mouthpiece.
Yeah, I thought it was Vidal's also, actually.
And Cleveland Burgess, his handler, moving very quickly to get that mouthpiece back in because his fighter had the advantage. Had it been the other way, you know, it would have taken all the time in the world. But Vidal turns it around. It's been a very, very well-fought, entertaining, and gritty fight.
Nice right hand. Excellent shot by Vidal. And now Walker comes back with a combination. Flash knockdown, first knockdown of the fight.
In a round in which Walker probably was losing it, even though it was fairly close.
Two tired fighters also right now with 20 seconds left.
Will it be enough for Lyndon Walker to get this decision?
Wow. Good right hand again, right on the chin. And this time Vidal holds on.
He's got him hurt now.
He does, but I don't believe he can get it done.
What a superb effort. And give Lyndon Walker a lot of credit for hanging in there and getting this kind of an effort in this round.
Excellent. And the question you still have to ask is it enough? Walker thinks it is.
Oh, I'll tell you, this is a very, very close fight. As you look at Vidal, despite the last knockdown, he had some good moments in those last few rounds.
But a reminder that football coming your way here on ESPN as it has gets us underway. NFL Game Day, Saturday at 11:30. NFL Prime Time, Saturday night at 7:30 p.m. And, of course, again, Sunday. The college season now over, so we got pro football Saturday and Sunday. So Sunday at noon and again at 7:30.
What's up, man? What's up?
Take a look at the face of what could be a winner. He is very confident that it is. And
Washington, D.C. That's D.C.
Very, very
sure, in the
close.
other corner, they're pretty confident as well.
Here's what could have turned the fight for Lyndon Walker. Good left hook, and boy, that's one of his best right hands of the fight. And then had Vidal hurt after that as well. But, of course, remember, there were 9.5 rounds that preceded this as Lyndon Walker goes over to matchmaker Ron Katz and makes his point.
Top right! Top right!
And there's my scoring. I made it 95-94 for Vidal, though you could easily make a case for Lyndon Walker. I gave him two-point round for Walker in the last round, but we'll see.
All right, it's now in the hands of the judges, and it's now in the hands of Michael Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, we go to the scorecards. Luis Rivera scores about 94-93. He has it for Vidal. Steve Weisfeld scores about 96-93. He scores it for Walker. And Harold Letterman scores about 96-93 for the winner by split decision from Washington, D.C., Lyndon Walker.
Well, it was exactly the kind of decision that you anticipated.
Very close, and for that man and Burgess, they got to be happy guys. He finally got a decision.
So Lyndon Paul Walker is a winner, and he took it on short notice. Now you know the results of this. Let's take a look at some other results of recent fights. Top Rank Boxing is brought to you tonight by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for a crisp, clean, classic taste. By the more than 800 AutoZone stores across America. AutoZone, the right parts at the right price. And by Smooth Operator, wet, dry razors from Panasonic. Smoother than you ever thought you'd be.
Well, we are back with Lyndon Walker, who finally got a close decision to go his way, and it was a very close fight, and you probably pulled it out with that knockdown in the last round.
Yes. Most definitely, I certainly put it out with that knockdown. I think it was a very close fight after all. And first of all, I would like to thank God for all that I am today, and I want to thank ESPN for bringing me here, and plus I want to thank Top Rank and also Ron Ketz for bringing me here. I hope I can be a great champion for Top Rank Boxing Association.
Well, I'll tell you what, you came here on very short notice. There is the at the end there where Vidal was in trouble. Now, you came in here on short notice. You were still able to get the job done. And what's more, you were able to get the job done in the last round when you needed it most.
Yes, that's what I say. First of all, I'd like to thank God, because God is what I need first of all. And I want to thank everyone back in Washington, D.C., my son, Lyndon Paul Walker II, and for the great fight. And I want to say hello to my friend, Regina Taper, and also my father and my mother who are in heaven.
Well, you got all that in. Congratulations. Good win for you. Not big on the strategy tonight, but a lot of thank yous. And that young man got a very big win for him. And we will be back with Ringside Report, so we don't want you to go anywhere. Stay right with us.
Thank you.
The Master's Way and learn from the best. 2 of America's favorite instructional videos are now available only through this special TV offer. Get tips from Steve Miserak, Pretty Boy Floyd, Iwo Mataya, and other pool greats. Now, for a limited time, you can order both videos for the price of one. Learn the secrets of breaks, banks, defense, position, angles, and trick shots like the Massey and the jump.
Take it from me, The Miz. When you purchase Pool the Master's Way and learn from the best, you'll learn everything you need to know how to shoot pool like a pro. With these 2 tapes, you can do almost anything, except beat me.
World champion Steve Miserak takes you through the best ways to improve your game. Call the number on your screen, and we'll send you this wonderful 2-video cassette collection for just $19.95 plus postage and handling.
2 for the price of 1? How can you go wrong?
These videos have never been offered together and are only being offered for a limited time. Call now. Have your credit card ready. An operator is waiting for your call. Sorry, no CODs. Call now.
All-Pro quarterback Dan Marino.
When the game is over and the pain starts, I want 2 things from my pain-relieving rub: fast relief and no odor. So I use Sports Cream, a strong pain-relieving rub that doesn't make me smell like a medicine chest. I just massage in Sports Cream for fast, odor-free relief. Cream or lotion, Sports Cream sure gets my vote for most valuable pain reliever.
It's time for Ringside Report. Ringside Report is brought to you tonight by Sports Cream. When muscles ache, rub in Sports Cream for fast pain relief. Well, let's go back to what we talked about at the very beginning of this program, and that was the non-appearance, if you will, of Oscar De La Hoya. He is in Los Angeles. Depending on who you talk to, you get a different story. But let's talk about what is fact.
Well, one of the things that is fact, at least according to the commissioner here, Randy Gordon, is lots of stories about why just Oscar De La Hoya is not here. Here's the one that he got leading up to this fight.
Well, originally on Monday afternoon, when we heard that Oscar De La Hoya was not going to be fighting, there was no official explanation other than he wasn't fighting. We'll keep you posted. Come Tuesday night, his attorney spoke to me and said that Oscar De La Hoya has had his right hand placed in a cast. It was not done by a California State Athletic Commission doctor, which leaves me a little bit skeptical, even though I hear that they had one of the finest specialists in the state of California do it. I like to have doctors from a state athletic commission do it. So apparently right now, the story that they're going with is that the right hand of Oscar De La Hoya has been injured.
All right, so that's a story. What is the story?
Well, the story that is certainly gotten much more attention and seems to be a little closer to what actually happened is Oscar De La Hoya is going through a management crisis period. He wants to get rid of his current managers, Steve Nelson and Bob Middleman. He has a couple gentlemen out in Los Angeles who allegedly have offered him money to bolt from Nelson and Middleman. He doesn't want to be with Nelson and Middleman anymore, and that is presumably the reason why he's not here. He has a press conference called for tomorrow, Oscar De La Hoya, to try and clear this up. And another sidebar to this is that Middleman and Nelson have filed suit for $10 million to prevent De La Hoya from bolting for them.
All right, more to come on that story for sure. More to come, of course, in the heavyweight division as Michael Moorer wins a fight. And now Evander Holyfield says, I think I'd like a piece of Michael Moorer.
Fascinating development. Everyone thinking Holyfield will go for the big money with Lennox Lewis. But he says, you know, Michael Moorer's waited around for a long time. He's the #1 challenger. Maybe I ought to fight him.
Well, Moorer fought Mike Evans, and it was a ponderous affair to be sure. Not a very entertaining fight. Moorer did have his hand raised in victory, and of course, that was really the end of all that. But here was the fight of the night without question.
Kelly and Vargas, and I'll tell you what, Kevin Kelly, who was challenging for a title, some say later than it should be, against Vargas, and I'll tell you, this was a superb fight in which Kelly would have to go down, and would have to score his own knockdowns to win this fight.
And he had a couple of them in the 9th round, and things really turned dramatically. So Kelly wrests the championship from a man who really looked like he'd been in a war, and in fact, he had. Well, this Ringside Report really has sort of been the litigation hour, if you will, and we end on another note of litigation. Ray Mercer in court, but the other half of all of that was not.
Well, the bribery trial for Ray Mercer finally got underway, but Jesse Ferguson didn't show up, the man that had made the original allegations, much to the chagrin of the judge, by the way, who said, I'm a little distressed that Jesse Ferguson could find it in his busy schedule to go fight Ray Mercer, but he couldn't get here to court. And, of course, Jesse Ferguson does have some family medical problems that took him away from it. And the judge also made an interesting point. He said, you know, I'm a little tired of everybody using this for their commercial gains. I'd like to see justice served.
All right, well, we've still got more to come from the return of boxing here to the city of New York, and particularly to Madison Square Garden or the Paramount. Coming up next week, we're back on the East Coast again. We will be up in Ledyard, Connecticut at Fernwood. I started to say Fernwood tonight. How do you like that? We'll both be at Fernwood next Thursday night. Anyway, for the WBO Junior Welterweight Championship, Zach Padilla against Ray Oliveira. And Oliveira and Padilla, a couple of guys who have really made the most of the opportunities given them, and they are getting another chance to have at one another for Padilla's title next week. Well, this has been Ringside Report. Ringside Report was brought to you tonight by Sports Cream. When muscles ache, rub in Sports Cream for fast pain relief. And we're not done yet here by a long shot. Is coming up next, our main event, Eddie Croft against Hector Acero Sanchez. All of that after all of this from New York. Barry Tompkins with Al Bernstein. We welcome you back to the Paramount here, formerly the Felt Forum in the city of New York, as boxing comes back after an absence, an extended absence for that matter. Main event time now, Junior. Featherweights Eddie Croft and Hector Acero Sanchez. We're going 10 rounds in the meet 'em, and we will in a moment as we take a look at Eddie Croft.
Eddie Croft is an engaging and articulate young man outside the ring and a precise and clever boxer inside it. He wins with ability and guile, but he can sting with his punches as well. And this win over Jerome Coffey showed all of this to great effect. It was his 18th straight as a pro. But this 24-year-old, who also runs a Taekwondo studio, would have a tougher time his next time out after winning this one against Coffey. He would lose a close decision to Gerardo Martinez. And first losses are always a little bit traumatic.
I'm not sure if I totally overcome that. I still think about it a lot, but it really motivates me to train harder and really improve on the skills that I have. I'm going to come out with good focus for this fight and just do what I have to do instead of straying away from the game plan as I did last time.
Well, Hector Acero Sanchez had his first loss back in September of 1991. He has not lost since.
And he understands the importance of this fight, and because of that, he has a very specific idea of what he needs to do to win this against Eddie Croft.
What we've been training for is either in close or halfway. This way he doesn't move around on me or don't let him be so far away from me. I'm going to fight him either halfway or inside with him.
So here's a look at Eddie Croft, and he brings an 18-1 record in, and there is
The belt that they will be fighting for, which I have no idea what belt that is, to tell you the truth, but they're fighting for the belt.
Would be a belt.
Yes, it's a 32 regular, I think. As you take a look at Hector Acero Sanchez, and let's talk about the keys to victory, brought to you by AutoZone.
Yeah, for Sanchez, he's got to press the action, and when he gets inside, work and work a lot. For Croft, stay busy, very busy on the outside, where he can keep Sanchez at bay and try and win a decision here and control the tempo, though. He does not want Sanchez to get in and create a brawl.
So that is the story. Those are the participants, and here is Michael Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, Top Rank Incorporated, along with the undisputed king of beers, Budweiser, present the featured bout of the evening. This bout is sanctioned by the New York State Athletic Commission Chairman Randy Gordon, Commissioners Rose Trentman and Herb Washington, Director of Operations Richard S. Herring, physicians in attendance Dr. Richard Estrico and Dr. Arthur Rouse. The timekeeper is Clarence McMillan. The three judges scoring the bout will be Steve Weisfeld, Luis Rivera, and Harold Letterman. And now, ladies and gentlemen, from the Paramount here at Madison Square Garden in New York City, let's get ready to rumble! 10 rounds of boxing in the featherweight division. When the bell rings, the man in charge of the action will be referee Wayne Kelly. Introducing first, fighting out of the red corner, wearing the black and white trunks, weighing 123 pounds. He's from San Mateo, California, and brings a professional record of 18 victories with only 1 defeat, 9 KOs to his credit. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Prime Time Eddie Croft. And his opponent across the ring, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing the white trunks with gold trim, also weighing 123 pounds. From the Bronx in New York, his professional record an outstanding one, 28 victories, 21 KOs, only 1 defeat with 1 draw. Ladies and gentlemen, Hector Acero Sanchez.
All right, gentlemen, we're boxing under the rules of the New York State Athletic Commission. I expect a clean fight. Protect yourself at all times. Obey my commands at all times. Shake hands. Come out boxing at the bell. Good luck.
So there's a look at Eddie Croft, who comes to New York for the very first time, not only as a fighter, but in general, the first time he's ever been in the city of New York. And he'll be opposed by Hector Acero Sanchez. Incidentally, that belt, we have solved the mystery. It is the New York State Championship belt, although it is not on the line tonight.
Since Eddie Croft, there you see Sanchez. Since Eddie Croft is from San Francisco area, I guess it wouldn't be. Although in boxing, almost anything is possible.
That's true. So Croft in the striped trunks and Acero Sanchez in the white.
I want to nominate Acero Sanchez as a possible winner for our best boxing outfit.
Excellent, a nautical theme.
Yeah, and we're going to have to pick those. You know, we're coming to the end of the year where those kinds of important awards have to be given out.
The shorties.
The shorties, as we call them. Yes. I thought Eddie Croft was quite candid with us when he talked about, and you heard some of it in the on one of the sound bites, about the fact that that loss that he had, the last loss, was difficult to accept, but he's not sure he's totally accepted it yet, but it did motivate him to try and do well.
He said he walked around for a month, the weather was beautiful, and he kept thinking to himself, what an ugly day.
And that was before he got here.
That's right. Yeah, I thought he was very succinct about, we asked him what he thought of New York, never having been here before. What did he say?
He said, it's cold, I don't like it.
He said, I hate it.
Yeah. Well, it's a mecca that it's a trip that they take trips to Mecca, don't they? It's a trip that a lot of fighters from the West Coast used to have to take before television because they needed exposure in one of the major media outlets. Right now, Sanchez is landing good shots against Eddie Croft. Sanchez is picking him apart as he's coming in.
Eddie had a very logical explanation for his loss in his last fight. He said what happened is there were 3 knockdowns in the first round. 2 by Croft and 1 by his opponent Martinez. And he said he got into a brawl, and he said, that's just not my fight. And I'm sure somewhere in the back of Hector Acero Sanchez's mind, he would like to do the very same thing.
You know, Hector has made him come to him. He's made Croft come to him so he could counter. It's a very interesting strategy. I thought Sanchez might be pressing the attack a little bit. He's fighting very smart first round. He's making Croft come to him and then landing counter shots.
Sanchez, the more experienced of the two fighters, been a pro since 1989. Suffered only one loss. That was a knockout loss in 11 rounds to Jose Garcia.
I think that Eddie Croft is a little tight here in this first round. He's missing kind of badly with some of his punches and looks tight. Sanchez is fighting an excellent first round.
Yeah, but a very good first round for Sanchez. Nice right hand there. We start the second round. Eddie Croft comes out to meet Hector Acero Sanchez.
And in round one, Acero Sanchez won the battle of power punches 17-4. Big edge for him in that first round. Nice percentage landed, 52. Once you're near the 50% mark, you're doing extremely well.
I want Croft to give Sanchez a few more angles in this round. But Eddie's criticism of himself was also interesting in that he said he tries to be too perfect sometimes.
Yeah, not letting his hands flow, and to an extent, that's a problem he's already having here tonight. You know, there he threw a couple, but he got nailed with a counter punch. The two fighters who have very similar styles. Right now, Sanchez just is more accurate. It's that simple.
Sanchez was ranked coming in here number 16 by the WBC. One time he was number 6. That was before the loss to Garcia.
They said to us this morning, his manager Nelson Fernandez, that they've been looking to fight Eddie Croft for a while.
Yeah, and the reason I thought it was very astute, you know, they felt that he would really give Sanchez all he wanted, and they felt that their man needed that.
And would really test his skills. And interestingly, even though Sanchez is having a very good go of it here in the early rounds, you can see that in order to do that, he's had to fight quite well, and that's precisely what he has done.
Yeah, he said that his own, again, we talked about Croft's criticism of himself was trying to be too perfect. Sanchez's criticism of himself is that he just gets a little bit lazy sometimes and fights down to the level of his opponent instead of up.
And tonight that will not be possible because Eddie Croft is a good fighter. But here in the first couple of rounds, Sanchez has just been more accurate, a better counterpuncher, and busier.
Nice uppercut in close by Sanchez, who's really moving Croft around well.
And one thing you really have to admire is Eddie Croft's a pretty quick puncher. Sanchez has not been hit with much of anything.
You know what else Eddie Croft is doing, which is a little bit disturbing, I think, is his tendency to flinch a little bit as the punch is being thrown.
Good countering by Sanchez from off the ropes. And you get a good view of how he spins off those ropes.
So we come to the end of round number 2, and it's been another very effective round for Hector Acero Sanchez. We welcome you back to the Paramount here in New York City. A reminder that the ESPN Senior PGA Tour Championship will get underway Friday. That is tomorrow night. 31 of the top seniors on hand for this one. The defending champion is Ray Floyd. Guys like Dave Stockton, Lee Trevino, Chichi Rodriguez, Bob Charles, George Archer, Jim Colbert, Larry Loretti, the Hill brothers. Everybody that's anybody amongst the seniors.
Every golfer that ever played is in that one. This is the body work by Sanchez, and also some good shots upstairs.
Round number 3. Hector Acero Sanchez in the white trunks, Eddie Croft in the striped trunks.
Great. Let him go. Stop.
First 2 rounds to Acero Sanchez on your card.
Yeah, I think he has done exceptionally good work. And for Eddie Croft now, the challenge is to, number one, see if he can get some combinations flowing. I think the only way he's going to hit Sanchez is by throwing several punches at one time. Because that also helps you avoid being countered. Because when you're throwing combinations, it's a lot tougher for your opponent to counter you.
Look at the punches so far in this fight, and Sanchez having it all over Eddie Croft, big time.
Not only throwing more, but his percentage, in terms of what he's landing, up at 52%. That's excellent. There's the jab by Croft. Boy, he really needs to get that punch going. And there he did a good job of slipping when Sanchez threw. So it's the little things in a fight like this, those little moments that a guy like Eddie Croft can build on that will help him get going.
It is surprising that Sanchez, who looks very experienced just in watching the fight here, clearly the more experienced of these two, is ranked as low as number 16 with only the one loss, and that was several years ago.
Well, and you can see by this bout that he's a talented fighter. You can also see that Sanchez doesn't throw his right hand as straight as he might, and had he thrown it straighter there, would have landed and might have made a big impact with Eddie Croft. And what was a promising beginning for Eddie Croft is going south on him a little bit here in this round because Sanchez has come back. The counter right by Sanchez.
Sanchez seems to have Croft a little bit confused at this point. There's a lead right hand. And he's really giving Croft a lot of different looks, a lot of different angles.
And he's making Eddie Croft fight a fight that I don't think Eddie feels comfortable with, and that is really being the aggressor. And the longer it goes and the more Eddie feels like he's getting behind, the more Hector will make him do that.
So once again, the story continues to be Hector Acero Sanchez and his controlling the fight. Round number 4, Hector Acero Sanchez in the white trunks coming out to meet Eddie Croft. Our humble opinion, we believe Acero Sanchez has won the first 3 rounds. Here are the punches in the last round, and again, Sanchez with twice the punches landed.
A good beginning by Croft. Good advice given Eddie Croft in the corner. They told him, throw a number of punches. Let the last one be hard. The first one doesn't have to be the one you're loading up on. Just land some punches. Throw them in combination.
Also urging him to work the body a little bit more. There's your card.
Eddie Croft throws a very wide left hook, loses a lot of power from it, and also allows himself to be countered a little bit with that punch. I was just going to say, the right hand of Croft has not come very often. That one did land. He's starting to establish his jab a little bit, Croft, and maybe the right hand could follow it. I'll tell you what, Hector Acero Sanchez is a slick fighter.
Yes, he really is.
He's got very good moves. And defensively, he gets the job done because, as we mentioned, Eddie Croft's a pretty quick-handed fighter.
And what I like about him is he very seldom will give you the same look twice. Very adept at spinning Eddie Croft out of there, as he's done on a couple of occasions. He just seems to have Eddie Croft thinking in there, which of course is one thing a fighter does not want to have to do. But by the time you do it, it's too late.
Yeah, and Eddie tried to work the body and it was a little bit low. He got a caution or a warning.
Shrewd right hand has been a pretty good weapon for Sanchez.
A little bit of reddening and a touch of swelling under the left eye of Eddie Croft.
He has taken a number of right hands for Sanchez.
Come to the end of round 4, and boy, it has been a recurring theme here, as you got to give this one to Sanchez as well.
Here is where Acero Sanchez has done such a good job from the outside, landing the jab and on the move, and Croft not even coming close to being able to counter it.
So Eddie Croft's just going to have to find something that has not been there, and as we said, that's very difficult when he's looking at a guy who has not given him the same thing on more than 1 or 2 occasions.
You know, you look at this bout and you look at the numbers landed by Acero Sanchez, and it doesn't look like he's dominating enough to you know, land 54% of those punches. Yet he is. I mean, he's accurate with his punches. And boy, is he making Croft miss. And during the break, Bob Canobio of our Punch Profile was pointing out that it's rare that they see a fighter make a fighter miss so many body shots, and that's what Sanchez is doing. He's making Croft miss body shots.
Let's see if he spins him out of here, which he's done on numerous occasions. Croft holding on this time.
Eddie Croft told us today he would be very busy, and he is not been. And a lot of that you have to attribute to Acero Sanchez, because he has made it so, to quote Captain Picard.
It was interesting. Eddie Croft said that he had looked at tapes of Hector Acero Sanchez, and what he saw was a little bit of Wilfred Benitez, and it's not a bad analogy.
Yeah, you know, that's right. I forgot about that. And that's why you're here, to remind us of things that I may forget. See, and
my mission in life.
Yeah. And you know what? It is a very apt analogy by him, because that's exactly the way he looks. And there is no one more frustrating to fight than a fighter like that, as Benitez was in his heyday, and we can see that from Sanchez there. Croft fought a guy a little bit like that in Jerome Coffey, a fight he won in July of this past year. But Jerome Coffey's not quite at the skill level he was 4 or 5 years ago, or he would have been very, very much like Acero Sanchez.
Oh, we're coming to the end of round number 5. It has been a very quiet fight so far as this crowd here at the Paramount is concerned, and hard to see that round much different than the previous 4. In the corner of Eddie Croft.
Give me the eye, Eddie. You show him. When you got him against the ropes, you send the opposing to him. Okay. Well, you got to feint at him or something. Hit his, go with his body. Go down, quick down that body, right? And get on your marks. Throw that left hook, right hand up. Right? Get on your marks. Sal, give me the hand with the best. You know how he dips down like that? Don't be straight up. You dip down like that.
Well, Sanchez using the jab very effectively. And look at him. Already he's moving right after he throws that jab. Every time he throws that jab, he's getting ready to get on his bicycle, and so it is impossible for this man to counter it.
It does look like there's a little nick over the left eye of Eddie Croft. Talked about the swelling underneath it, but it looks like he might have a little cut up there also. And we start the 6th round. Eddie Croft's going to have to dig down and find something that has not been there yet.
Now, there is my scorecard. I've got it shutout for Sanchez. You know, they told Eddie Croft something that they've given him some very useful advice in the corner, useful information. One of the things they said was, don't let him pose. Feint, do things that will make him think, because he's making you really think and react to everything.
You know, the jabs through 5 rounds, and Cesaro Sanchez utilizing his jab not more often, but more effectively than Eddie Croft.
That's a very important statistic in this fight. So here's where, instead of just coming straight in, they want Croft to feint a little bit, throw some jabs to the belly, give him a more multi-dimensional look. These young fighters, Croft 24 and Sanchez 23 years of age, so they're right in the time of their career when they can make something happen.
Just in terms of experience, though, it doesn't seem to be any contest.
Now, Sanchez has, it would seem, been in with the tougher guys and has, in fact, had about 10 or 12 more fights. You know, not everything landed there, and Eddie Croft did a good job of blocking a few, but could not counter with anything. And I'm going to tell you something, against a fighter of lesser skills than Eddie Croft, in terms of, I mean, Eddie Croft's not a bad defensive fighter, and he's pretty quick-handed. I think you would see Sanchez landing even a lot more. But right there is where Croft is having a hard time getting up. Look at him, just very frustrated. Eddie Croft probably does better when a fighter comes to him. And Sanchez has made Croft come to him almost in the beginning of this bout. He has not served Eddie Croft well.
Right from the opening bell, he has dictated the fight.
Immediately throws the combo, and Sanchez moves. He's almost programmed to do that. And you know what? That's a great move for him. He's not almost programmed to move. He is programmed to move that way.
Well, they said that this was going to be a very good test for Hector Acero Sanchez, and so far you'd have to say he's passed the test.
Well, in the NBA, people are surprised to know defense helps you win. Just as surprising in boxing, but look, it's this defense, nothing getting there by Croft, and that alone is helping Acero Sanchez win this fight.
And Croft is getting himself in a situation now where, again, to make an analogy to another sport, to football, it's very difficult for a team that can't pass the football to come from behind, and that's the situation that Croft is in. He's slowly getting himself in a situation where he's going to have to knock his man out. That's not his game. And Acero Sanchez is the guy who is closer to that, a lot closer than Eddie Croft is right now.
He may have hurt Croft with a couple of those uppercuts.
I think he did.
Croft with his hands very low. Instead of moving, he's just kind of staying in there. And his hands are really low. And now for the first time in this fight, it's Sanchez moving forward.
Yeah, and Croft is slow and perceptive. Good right hand.
Huge round here for Acero Sanchez. You know, they said that Nelson Rodriguez told us that they would have fought Jesus Salud or Welcome Nocita. So they wanted a tough test here, Barry, and they're willing to face those kinds of guys. And I'd love to see Sanchez and Jesus Salud in the battle. That would be a great fight.
Craft with a big left hand, and you saw Sanchez drop to one knee for a moment. And I'm not too sure, but that shouldn't have been a knockdown.
Because the ropes may have held him up. So it shouldn't be matchmaking for Sanchez while Eddie Croft is still in there banging away at him. Is the point.
Left hand.
But again, you know, I hasten to point out that Eddie Croft is not a guy who is going to make his career out of getting people out of there.
A nice counter right, though, by Eddie Croft. Sometimes great things are born of desperation, and that's kind of the way Croft is fighting now.
He's got Sanchez going backward for the first time, too.
You know, that's interesting. He's throwing his left hook now with a lot more. Look at the leverage he got in that hook to the body and the one he threw before to the head. All of a sudden, Eddie Croft throwing that punch a lot better and getting a lot more power into it.
Took a right hand, however, from Sanchez. It's going to be interesting to see if it's a confidence builder for Eddie Croft. And meanwhile, in the corner of Hector Acero Sanchez, you see the brain trust there.
I said Nelson Rodriguez a moment ago. I meant Nelson Fernandez, of course. Pretty happy in that corner. There's Nelson Fernandez, you see leaning in from outside the ropes. Here is the uppercut landing by Sanchez, and he may have stunned Croft during that segment. Here's Croft, though. Look at the leverage he got in that left hook to the body and throwing those shots pretty well. Getting a lot more leverage on those punches.
It's actually just before that, though, that he had a crank to left hand that almost dropped Sanchez to a knee.
You're not throwing him. There you go.
So we start the 8th round now, and Eddie Croft, as we said, with a little bit of a confidence builder. Sanchez starts him off with a right hand here in round number 8, though.
Eddie Croft did land 23 power punches in the last round. However, Sanchez landed 33, so Croft did increase the number he's landing, but so did Sanchez.
This card clearly for Acero Sanchez.
And a big right hand by Sanchez that Croft kind of shook his head and said, yeah, good punch. There, oh, I'm sorry.
Take it.
There, take it out. It's like Tommy and Dick, right? There's Sanchez with a huge edge in the punches landed. And the point is going to make is that 57% is right up there in the stratosphere. That's about as good as you get normally.
Yeah, because in fact, what Eddie Croft has is not embarrassing.
Especially against a good defensive fighter like Acero Sanchez. Why do I want to call him Franchez? Is there anyone named that ever, anywhere? Well, this is a fight for boxing purists, obviously. It has not been wildly exciting. And unless you are, in fact, a boxing purist, it's not going to be your cup of tea. What you have to admire about this, though, is the effort by Sanchez.
Right hand from Croft. Didn't appear to hurt Sanchez, however. Another right hand from Croft.
Sanchez is dropping the right hand in from time to time, still against Croft. Not hurting him with it like he did a few rounds ago, but it's still getting him.
One of Eddie Croft's big supporters, old pal of mine out in the Bay Area, Roger Craig, now the Minnesota Vikings.
Apparently he has gone to work out at Eddie's Taekwondo school a couple of times, right? Have you been there? Who's going to defend me at ringside if you don't get these martial arts instructions?
I thought about Taekwondo, but I opted for sleep. Now to the end of round number 8 now, and could be too little too late for Eddie Croft.
Well, Sanchez landing combinations, using the jab as a rangefinder, got the left hook and the right hand in. And all the while, Eddie Croft not able to respond at all.
It's round 9 of a 10-round fight. Crowd taking up the chant, Eddie, Eddie.
And they told us today there would be some Eddie Croft fans here, despite the fact that he has come across the country.
The police department in the city of San Mateo has been very supportive of Croft. A lot of them are also students at the Taekwondo school.
Good right hand a moment ago by Croft. He's going to need a real big one. That was his best round, as the numbers showed you in the last round that he's had in a long time, but still coming up a little short. There's no question, I would think, about the fact that Eddie Croft needs a knockout to win this fight.
Sanchez confident, in fact, both men confident that the winner will get themselves ranked.
That's right.
And thus be only a step or two away from the title shot.
And they're talking, in fact, about Sanchez if he should win this fight, fighting Jesus Salute, or former champion Welcome Nocita.
Good fights, both of them.
Excellent. He and Salute, style-wise, would make a terrific matchup. You really have to admire the defense and the ability to slip punches by Cero Sanchez.
And we talked early in this fight about Sanchez giving Croft a lot of different looks. And the fact is, for the last 5 rounds, he hasn't given him different looks. He's basically dancing with Lagruna.
The thing that would be intriguing about nice right by Croft, and again, it would be intriguing about somebody like Saludin against Sanchez. He does pack a lot of power in his punches, and so when he lands some of those left hooks, the question would be what would happen. Croft himself going downstairs well with the left hook.
Headed for the end of round number 9, and Eddie Croft is in a situation where he just is going to have to get Hector Acero Sanchez out of there in round 10 if he's to win the fight. And it'll be interesting to see, I think, what his corner has to say to him, because I would have to think it's pretty hard to draw any other conclusion.
Deep breath,
Eddie, last round, we're going to touch gloves.
Hey, you got to reach up against them ropes. You can't just throw one, okay? You got to out-hustle. Get them hands free and you start throwing. All right?
Well, Eddie Croft attacking and attacking and attacking, landing a right, but just not getting enough punches in. There you see he's missing more than he's throwing. It's been a tough night for this young man.
What do you want? Second down.
Both these men, really nice guys you'd like to see succeed. And we say that every week practically because in most cases it's true.
Yep. And here's your card. And it's been pretty much, well, it's been more than pretty much. It has been a completely one-sided.
Yeah, I just don't see Eddie Croft. Maybe one round he might have won, but that's about it. Tough for him, too, coming off a loss. To head right into this bout now, it would look like, unless lightning strikes, it would look like another loss for him.
Here are the punches through 9 rounds, and you can see a decided edge of 118 punches landed by Acero Sanchez.
And as we pointed out, it's not that Croft has done that poorly. And, you know, I'm always amazed. We have fights like this. Nice right by Sanchez where one fighter does so much better, and you can see the other fighter shouldn't be that far behind because of their skill level and all the rest. But sometimes guys just really get it done, and that's the case with Sanchez tonight.
Pretty good left hook from Eddie Croft, but again, it's pebble in the river.
Just enough movement from Sanchez. Keep Eddie Croft at bay. Look at that. What a beautiful sequence from Sanchez. Croft gets a right hand in, but Sanchez landed a couple of very good counter punches.
Uppercut thrown from long range by Sanchez.
Well, from an artistic standpoint, Sanchez couldn't have done much better. And there's another guy in the audience, Leroy Neiman, who's done some fairly good work on canvas. And he's got to appreciate the artistry of what Sanchez has done.
Good right hand again by Croft.
He's going to need a big one here if he wants to make something happen.
Inside a minute remaining.
Croft is letting that right hand go, which is a good idea. Of course, in doing so, you also leave yourself open and you can get nailed in something big.
I said earlier that it appeared after one of Croft's punches that Sanchez dropped to a knee. Now I've noticed over the past few rounds when he does get hit, he does just naturally drop down, so it might not have been that he was hurt.
He's using that as kind of a ploy. But it's been a little better round for Croft, but certainly not enough to win. I'm not even sure he won this round. So for Eddie Croft, it'll be a tough trip back to Northern California. And for Sanchez, he's looking ahead. All he's got to do is ride the subway.
So it is over, and I don't think the decision is too much in doubt. Although in Eddie Croft's corner, they seem pretty jubilant. Seem to feel their man did okay. And it wasn't so much what he didn't do, it was really more what Sanchez did do.
Yeah, Eddie Croft came in here, and it wasn't that he was stale. I don't know how, you probably couldn't characterize him as extremely sharp, but he wasn't stale. It's just that Sanchez did everything so well in this fight, performed extremely well.
The world champion, we want you.
They're happy, and why shouldn't they be? And there's that belt again, that New York belt thing.
New York State Championship, not on the line. The boxing special coming your way here on ESPN tomorrow night at 10:30 Eastern Time. It'll be a re-air of the Riddick Bowe Evander Holyfield fight. Bowe defending his heavyweight championship against Holyfield, one of the great fights. Oh, tomorrow night?
Yeah, it should be very good. Really interesting to watch that. And I'll bet you that the same thing happens this time as when it was first fought.
I feel pretty certain about that.
The real champ.
So there is a look at Eddie Croft, who, in our eyes at least, is going to come up on the short end of all of this, and we are just about set to go and find out officially what all happened. Here's Michael Buckley.
Ladies and gentlemen, we go to the scorecards. Harold Letterman scored the bout 96-94 for Acero Sanchez. Judges Luis Rivera and Steve Weisfeld score the bout 95-95 by majority. The bout is a draw.
Wow. Wow.
Are we saying that a lot?
I don't know. I honestly, and you know, Eddie Croft is a sweetheart of a guy. He's a very good fighter, but you know what? He didn't come close in this fight. I'm sorry, the numbers tell you. I mean, there's a 313 punch landed for Sanchez, 178 for Croft. You can't win a fight like that. That's pathetic. I'm sorry.
That's 135 more punches landed.
And I'm going to tell you something. They scored all the body punches that Sanchez threw that apparently somebody else at ringside wasn't looking at. That's a shame. And you know, you're looking at Eddie Croft, as we said, a delightful young man, gave a good effort, but under no circumstances should this be a draw because Sanchez outboxed him. That's just a fact, folks.
And what more is there to say? The decision is a draw, and for yet another time, your loyal and obedient servants here are shocked by a decision. We'll be back to the Paramount in New York after this. Barry Tompkins with Al Bernstein. We're back at the Paramount here, and every time, once again, I think I've said this about 150 times, you think you've seen it all. you haven't seen it all.
I'd like to feel like we're not trying to mislead anybody, and we're certainly not trying to. This crowd is in kind of a weird state. Nelson Fernandez, who is the manager for Sanchez, is in an apoplectic state, and frankly, I don't blame him. And as we said, Eddie Croft is a fine young fighter, a delightful young man who gave a pretty good effort. But he didn't land that many punches, folks. And if you don't land that many punches, you cannot win a fight. It's that simple.
And, you know, we'd like to bring Nelson Fernandez on and talk about it, but the fact of the matter is, to really give an objective report, we feel we have to have somebody from Eddie Croft's camp here, too. We were trying to do that before we get off the air, and if we can, we will bring both Nelson Fernandez and somebody from Croft's camp in to see what their feeling is about all this.
And I'm going to tell you something. Eddie Croft pushed forward in this fight 95% of the time. But it was such an ineffective aggressiveness because he was getting hit with punches. He was not landing them against Sanchez. And I don't think that is a subjective statement. I think the numbers prove that. And even if you want to say that some of the numbers weren't correct, or you want to say that maybe they gave somebody more connects than they should have, the fact of the matter is, not by 100 and some punches, more than 100 and some. What was it, almost a 200-punch difference?
Yeah, Harold Lederman was the only judge who did give it to Sanchez. He gave it to Sanchez by 2 points. And obviously, I have to think, we are sometimes, I don't want to say we're influenced by the numbers that we see, but we do have access to them, although we don't score the fights based on looking at the numbers. But still, there's a very different criteria, obviously, between the judges and what we're looking at.
I'm even shocked at the scorecard that Harold had, because in truth, and again, you know, I want to emphasize, it's not so much that Eddie Croft fought a bad fight. It's that Sanchez fought a perfect fight, and you should be rewarded if you fight a perfect fight, if you get yourself in the best shape. We saw it happen with Harold Brazier and Kevin Pompey. Harold Brazier landed more punches a few weeks ago and didn't get hit as much. And if that's not what boxing's all about, then it's not a sport.
So is there going to be a hue and cry now, do you feel, to get these two together again? Let's settle the thing once and for all?
Well, I'd like to see it again, but, you know, just let's get some new judges. I mean, I'm not trying to be super critical, and I'm not trying to be so dogmatic or one-sided here, but the fact of the matter is somebody wasn't paying attention here tonight, because this guy, Sanchez, threw a lot of punches and landed a lot of punches and boxed as well as you can box defensively. Now, somewhere, he's got to get some credit for all that.
You know, and the fact is, too, that the crowd here at the Paramount, a very good crowd tonight, they were really into this whole thing. And right now, everybody's just kind of sitting on their hands wondering what actually happened here.
And you know what? It's a kind of a bizarre feeling here, because they want to be outraged, but they're not even sure about how outraged they should be. And I can tell them they should be pretty outraged.
All right, so that was the story from here at the Paramount, and yet another night of Top Rank Boxing turns into another bizarre night of Top Rank Boxing. Well, as soon as we get out of here, we're going to get you to Sports Center. Sports Center with Dan Patrick and Gary Miller. We'll tell you all about the Sonics and the Rockets. And boy, are they both looking really awesome at this point. The Hawks, 12 in a row, as streaks seem to be the order of the day in the NBA, and the Hornets and the Cavs also getting it on. That's right after we get out of here, and we're getting out of here right now. So for my partner, Al Bernstein, I'm Barry Tompkins. See you next week.
Top Rank Boxing was brought to you tonight by Budweiser, Beechwood Age for a crisp, clean, classic taste. By Napa, we keep America running. And by Northwest Airlines, some people just know how to fly. Well, next week, Zach's back, and he's wearing a title belt. Zach Padilla is a top-ranked success story who parlayed an opportunity into a championship. Next week, he risks it at the hand of Ray Oliveira, who has followed a similar course, making the most of his chances. We'll be on the reservation in Ledyard, Connecticut, the WBO Junior Welterweight title next Thursday night.